ready? It's time to forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to something brand new and different here at Forge Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. I'm joined today by Ricky Addington.
Hey, let's talk about Blood Angels.
And second time on the mic, Miles Hamrick.
What's going on, everybody?
Together we are, everybody say it with me, the Podcast Eternals.
I missed that.
Nobody said it. Because nobody knows, right?
Nobody knows.
Right.
I was like, wait, which name are we going with?
Well, we're going to talk about, when I said something different, we're actually going to talk about some Age of Sigmar stuff. I am a brand new Age of Sigmar person. Now, I played it when it first came out, in the demo games, and played some one-off things, not very seriously. The General's Handbook is of course ignited everyone's enthusiasm. The Adepticon tournament grew from last year's, we had like 40 people in it. They were probably just holdouts from Fantasy Battle. Grew to over 100 people this year, and that's in the singles.
I was really impressed with that, and I really felt bad that I didn't have my army. I was actually going to not play in the 40K GT and play in the Sigmar event, and I just couldn't get my army painted to a good standard in time. And when I got up there and saw all the people playing, I was extremely jealous. I mean, it really took off. It took a while to get going, but once it did, it's blown up.
Everything looked outstanding. Yeah, I pulled the Trial by Fire at the Adepticon Age of Sigmar singles event. That was my, I think, 2nd through 8th games of Age of Sigmar. So.
Went in with some experience, huh? Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was playing Stormcast Eternals. I went with a real fluffy list. I read the Blade Storm books and based it off of that. And needless to say, that competition, hammered me down. They were like, "Oh, you're playing fluffy? Sweet.
Have you met the Lord of Change?"
Yeah.
Golly, I've never seen so much Tzeentch in my life as walking through. Well, they all look good, though. I'll give it to those guys. I mean, if you're going to bring some painful lists, they at least made them look really good. So I can't hate too much.
I was over there creeping around looking at Sylvaneth list because, while we do have a good friend of the show who has helped me create a Sylvaneth list, and I trust implicitly, he won the LVO for Age of Sigmar.
So he's got some cred. Yeah.
But I was still looking around just to kind of see what, get some color scheme ideas, see what other people might be using. Because as things evolve, even as I don't know if it's on the kind of the month-to-month scale, but as things evolve and player lists evolve, I think it's, I just want to stay on top of it. And I feel good about the choices of including a lot of Kurnoth Hunters.
You're never going to go wrong with Kurnoth Hunters. I say that not knowing what the General's Handbook 2 is going to points those at. I have a feeling that you're getting those at a bargain basement points cost right now. I bet.
Oh, you think they're going to increase?
Oh, absolutely. I don't see any way around it that Kurnoth Hunters are going to go up in points. And you can look at that and you can look at how ubiquitous they are in lists. They're a must-have. You're going to take Kurnoth Hunters. Oh, it's because they are. They're amazing. They look amazing. They play amazing. They are amazing. They will get caught on anything that you get within a 5-foot radius of them. So don't wear sleeves while playing them. But other than that, they are amazing. Kurnoth Hunters. You literally can't go wrong with a Kurnoth Hunter. Right now, there's nothing you could do wrong with one. You put a bow on them, they're going to gut you from 30 inches away. You put a sword on them, they're going to go mow through any light infantry you have. You put scythes on them, they're going to gut anything. I mean, they're just
That's good to know. I was currently planning on 6 with bows and 6 with scides. So I think just good. With the anticipation, I'll probably just go with 6 bows and 3 sides, and then wait to see what happens with the General's Handbook and just make do with that.
You really can't go wrong. It's all about like what you want to do with them. Miles, do you remember that? Whatever that. There's a Warscroll battalion for Sylvaneth, and it's like a Tree Lord Ancient and Kurnoth Hunters, and they get to move in their hero phase. As long that you pick a target and you move towards it, you get a free move towards it. My buddy uses that. He just has Kurnoth Hunters with size making double moves across the table, and then they're in your face with size very quick, and you die when they get there.
Well, I feel good about that.
Yeah, you should, because they're really good, and I hate them. I hate them so much.
Again, I'm playing them largely. I mean, I got them over the course of the last, I guess since they came out up until now. Picked up some others during the holidays. Thank you very much.
That's how our whole community started. Was as a joke. Our buddy came in. Our buddy came in dead last in a 40K tournament playing Grey Knights, of course. And as a joke, we told him, well, maybe this isn't your game, and gave him an Age of Sigmar starter box. And nobody will ever play this, but it's a good laugh. And sure enough, that started our entire local area, because he was just like, hey, let's play this once. And we played it. And next thing you know, every one of us have Age of Sigmar armies.
Is he any good?
Well, he's better. He's better. He is dead set. If you guys aren't familiar with Lord Croak from the Seraphon, in narrative play, he's the most ridiculous unit in the game. In matched play, he is significantly less frightening, but he's just got that ability that he's got a magic power. He's got a spell that goes off and hits everything within range for like D3 mortal wounds. So he loves Croak, and he is obsessed with making Croak work. So he's got Croak, who jumps up on a Bellwind Vortex, which doubles the range of the spell. And then he's got an Astrolith banner that he plants.
That's one of those terrain pieces that you can buy separately, right?
Yeah. It's a spell, and it doesn't count against how many spells you can cast in a round. So it's like, I can't remember. I think it's like
you 8. Cast it, and you just like put your dude on there.
You still have to cast the spell. So when you cast it, he goes up on top of the Bellwind Vortex, and everything around it gets pushed like 3 inches away from it or something. He can't be targeted by melee attacks, so he can't be caught in combat. When he's up there, he can only be killed by ranged attacks.
Can anybody take that? Can like Alariel do that?
Yeah. As far as I know, Alariel can do that. Alariel doesn't want to, because Alariel can, wreck people's faces in combat. But yeah, any wizard, as far as I know, can take that. And so what he does, so like Croak, it's like 3d6 or something for his range. So then it becomes 3d6 times 2 plus 9 or something from the Astrolith. So he basically hits the whole dang table for D3 mortal wounds. And you're like, oh, well, that's not that much. But when you have, 15 units on the table, and he's doing 15 D3 mortal wounds every turn, and you can't hardly kill him if you're, if you don't have the range to get through him, it adds up.
That sounds neat.
He's won some games with it, but there are some armies that just absorb that, like skeletons and undead armies just absorb that and shrug it off. But elite armies like Sylvaneth and Stormcast and stuff like that, low model count but high wound kind of stuff, can really get gutted by that over the course of a game. So it's not working out for him a lot, but when it does, it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, whatever. As long as he's having fun. Yeah,
it ain't too bad. I mean, I'm currently redoing my entire army right now because of the new Stormcast book, but, I'm not bitter.
No, not at all.
One rule change.
I'm switching over to the Iron Jaws, actually.
Are you?
Yeah. I watched a couple guys play with their armies, and I was mesmerized by the tactics, which is, hey, there's something to kill over there. Run at it as fast as you can and try to kill it.
It's not subtle. It is not subtle in any way. And yeah, it's boy, when it works though, it is a gratifying game, and you will have plenty of time to drink between rounds at a tournament because it's going to be over pretty quick.
Yeah, either way,
win or lose, it's going to be over quick. So you can't fault that one bit. We got a button plays that. I've actually gotten my butt kicked with my Stormcast with it because here I am null deployed, so I got to just drop in on it and not let them charge. And of course, I just basically give him what he wants, and then I get gutted. So I've learned my lesson. Put your guys in against his flanks and make him work towards you. If you go just man on man with some Iron Jaws, it's a bad day.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned it earlier. Talking about all the nice sculpts that they definitely have been coming out with, and everything has been amazing as far as the sculpts and everything like that. But I do agree with you with not being able to wear any loose clothing because it doesn't matter what model it is. You'll drag it off the table with your shirt.
Every branch on a Sylvaneth model, every wing, a spiky thing on a Stormcast model. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary when Chaos is the least spiky army.
Yeah.
in the game.
Well, these
when you think
models,
about it.
the detail on them, I've been impressed because I'm more of a paint by numbers kind of guy. Like I don't have a lot of artistic talent, but I can paint a figure.
Mhm.
And the tutorials that I've been watching are helping, but the figures themselves, you can really tell where the detail is, and that's something that you don't get. I was actually talking with, I may include another segment from a vendor on here, but I was talking about another vendor. I know it's a bit complicated. Anyway, I was mentioning some of the models that you see from some of these companies out there, that they hire people to paint them amazingly. Like, they create the detail in the model with the paint.
Right. Yeah. And then you buy it and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I'll never get this. What is
yeah.
going on here? This is not attainable for me. But that's not the case with these GW models.
I mean,
not at all.
This stuff now, it's like, oh, I'll throw a wash on here, and all of a sudden, detail just shows up. It's amazing. Between the detail on the model, the new paints, the technical paints, especially the washes, everything that's out, and then our man Duncan killing it on YouTube. If you can't get your models looking halfway decent, I don't really know what to tell you at that point. So
find a friend that can do it for you.
Yeah.
Well, they take a lot of the guesswork out of it, which is the neatest thing. So with the detail on the models, the way that the paints are designed now, even if you're getting like you're getting Vallejo, you're getting Reaper, you're getting whatever your local game store sells. The paints are coming out in ways that they work together a lot more easier. You're not really mixing colors anymore, and you're not dealing with too many different consistencies of the paint. And then with the tutorials, there's a lot of opportunity out there to up your model game.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, when did I get into this hobby? About 14 years ago or something. And I remember it was literally just, okay, I'll just throw some paint here, I guess. I mean, I didn't know.
I'll use,
I didn't know to prime it. I didn't know what to do. It was the worst.
Priming seemed just like a useless, needless step. Who has time for that?
I'm covering that up. Why am I going to paint it just to paint it again? That doesn't make sense. I didn't know. I still have one or two of my Dark Angels from, what was that, second edition, I think. The cover was the Blood Angels and the Orcs or something like that. I think it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was like, I think it was like second edition. But those terrible, terrible looking Space Marines that, the bolt gun is just molded into the chest. I still have some of them, and I've still got them painted up from 14 years ago. I got a couple of them, and I'm
sure those are amazing.
Oh, it's glorious. But it's
great before and after.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break, and we might grab Justin Troop here also for the next segment. And then we'll come back. You mentioned that your army list changed for the Stormcast, and I want to talk about that and what that army book did, specifically, and then what you guys' impression of how the army books are being designed on a go forward basis.
Oh, this will be fun.
Absolutely.
I will see you in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Hey everybody, we are back. I'm still Paul. I got Ricky and Miles.
Yep.
Turns out the Celestant Prime is an overeater.
And Justin Troop.
Where did that come from?
I know we wandered around a little bit in the first part of the segment, but I want to talk about the army books. Like I of course have the Battle Tome, the Sylvaneth Battle Tome, and then the Stormcast Eternals one just came out. How does that book compare to some other army, the army books in the past, and even the Sylvaneth Tome? What does this say for the future?
It's the gold standard.
Yeah. Well, the Sylvaneth book, I think, was the gold standard. I think this one is just following up on that. All the books up until the Sylvaneth book were basically, here's your army and here's a couple of Warscroll battalions in it. And then when the Sylvaneth book came along and started giving artifacts and traits, all the stuff in there and all these different benefits, and then they followed up on it with the Stormcast Eternals, it was fantastic. And well, I mean, Troop, you may be right. I think maybe it is a little better. It may be the gold standard for Stormcast for the simple fact that it made OK units very attractive again. And the reason I say that is because when did you ever see a Lord Relictor on the table before this book came out? And now that he can take these extra abilities, if you stay within the Stormcast faction, all of a sudden.
Pardon my ignorance, but what on earth are you guys talking about?
Okay, sorry.
He's talking about the prayers that the Lord Relictor gets.
Yeah, so
he's like a chaplain priest kind of deal.
Yeah. So basically, if you just play an order army, you get and you take the Stormcast heroes, well, you're going to get their base thing, what comes on their war scroll. But if you take a Stormcast Eternal army and it's all Stormcast Eternals, then you get some extra abilities within. So you get your artifacts and you get your command traits and battle traits and stuff like that. But they also have prayers of the storm hosts. So if you take a priest, and the only priest in a Stormcast army is a relictor, and he was okay before, but he really didn't do a whole lot. But now, if you take a relictor and you are pure Stormcast Eternals, you get a free prayer on top of the one he already has. He has 2 now. Base.
So if all your war scrolls are from the Stormcast Eternals, then you get this free benefit.
Yeah,
exactly.
Basically, you're getting kind of like a bonus for taking like a one source CAD, if you will, for the 40K minded. So if you put all your eggs in the one basket, you're going to see across the board a lot of units, not all of them, but a lot of units, mostly your lords, will have these like extra benefits that kind of just turn them up another notch or two. And what Ricky's saying too is like before the Relictor, he was okay, but there was things that were just so much better.
Yeah.
And they really balanced this book out quite a bit. So now the Relictor, it's like, oh wow, like getting that extra prayer is kind of huge, and that can really augment your army. And that's what Age of Sigmar is about. It's about augmenting combos, building things, and then striking at the right opportunity. So, that's what's really bringing, to me, the gold standard of this book about. But on top of that, though, there's just so much more, like Ricky was touching on the artifacts, but there's like the Path of Glory section and just like all kinds of extra stuff that the book has. I feel like this is the most complete tome. And this is what I would expect going forward, because it just gives you everything that you need to play that one faction.
Yeah, and it makes it much more attractive to play that one faction, because I was playing Order beforehand.
Sylvaneth, to where you get to choose what your spells are and everything, or
yes,
giving you the option of rolling or just choosing.
Yeah, like the prayers of the Storm Host, for instance, has 6. You can roll or pick. I'm always going to pick Lightning Chariot, but that's just me.
Go-to prayer.
Absolutely. And because that fixes, think about that. You have an 80-point guy that now you can teleport your guys, your slow, super slow Stormcast Eternals 24 inches across the table. And you get that for free just because you're staying in Stormcast. And yeah, like what Troop was saying, this is the gold standard. And because like these abilities are tacked on for free, whereas Sylvaneth, you got some spells here and there, but you didn't really fundamentally change how a unit really worked. And now all of a sudden, your Relictor gets these prayers. Your guys with totems can take a specific artifact. Your Lord Castellan or Veritant can take these mystic lights. So there's just all these extra
what is
benefits.
A mystic light?
It's just another category of artifacts. So like Stormcast has the most ridiculous list of artifacts out there. So you can't take more artifacts, but you have more variety. So there's a blessed weapons category that's just all like swords and stuff, very offensive. Then there's an enchanted armor artifact section, which is all very defensive stuff. It even lets you, one of them is Spell Shield, where your guy can unbind as if he were a wizard. So it's very defensively oriented. And then you have magical artifacts, which they seem a little more, not generic, but a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not random, but a little more all over the place. They're just here and there. Miscellaneous. Thank you, nobody, for helping me there.
On a roll, man.
Shush. And then
there's a good combo that comes out of that mystical artifacts we can talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's actually pause and talk about that for a minute, because I would like to know what, in you guys' opinions, because you're all Stormcast players, what are some of your favorite artifacts and combos that you've seen out of this new book?
All right, so the one that really just jumps off the page is the Knight Vintner, and you give him the Luck Stone, which gives you the ability to change the result of one hit, wound, or damage dice roll.
Kind of mini Tyros.
Yeah, so he's got a special ability they can do once per game, which is a Star-Fated Arrow. So instead of rolling his normal 3 attacks, you roll 1. You're hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s with a -1 rend. But if you're shooting a hero or a monster with that special shot, is a D6 plus 3 damage instead of a standard D3 plus D. So you're hitting a hero, you use your Luck Stone. If it goes through, turn that D6 into a solid 6. So you're putting 9 damage off of one shot into a hero.
I think I used something like that in Silver Tower. I think that the flying Stormcast guy with the bow.
Yeah, that's the Night Vendor.
Yeah,
Is this
he's
the guy we're
the
talking
truth.
about, or
Yep.
at least a?
Yep, that's the
Same dude,
guy we're
yep.
talking about. Yeah, so that's like one of the easy, hero combos right there.
It's a bit of a Hail Mary, but man, if it goes through,
If it goes off, you're deleting a hero. And
yeah, it's done.
people are gonna have a
Mine.
sad face.
Ugh, I like it. I don't hate it.
So, can you hide characters and units and stuff?
No.
They're all
heroes
Gilliman, buddy.
Are out there?
They are out there
Vulnerable.
for the pickings.
Yeah, it's
You
kind
can
of scary.
screen them though, like
Yeah.
you can bubble wrap units and stuff like that. So you're cutting off charge lanes.
Well, how
Like
do
a lot
from getting sniped.
You don't.
You don't.
don't.
And shooting
Well-
is stupid powerful in Age of Sigmar. So
It's one of the artifacts for Stormcast, which kind of helps you shooting. Is going to be the Mirror Shield, which puts subtracts 2 from any hit rolls from a missile weapon. So
Directed
that's good.
at that hero.
Yeah, directed at that hero. And then if you put, let's say,
Put some
protectors in front of
that. Yep.
then now it's a -3 because to shoot through them, you -1 to a hit as well. So they stack up. So now you're half the time you're rolling to hit on a 7. So you have to have something that buffs your guys.
Well, that's pretty neat. Okay, I'm starting to pick it up. So, Ricky, what was your artifact you were talking about?
Which ones were we talking? Were we talking about like some combos
Just
and
a
stuff we liked, or was it?
Yeah, something out of the Stormcast book that you like.
Okay, so here's my thing. It's actually not out of the Stormcast book. Well, actually, it might be now. Which is the one that just gives it +1 to damage? That's out of the order. It's actually just out of the General's Handbook. One of my favorite things to do is just put it on a Lord Castellan, because nobody expects the Lord Castellan, who is the most defensive dude out there, to do damage, because his whole job is to make your unit more defensive. Take the order artifact that gives it a +1 damage, and the dude's swinging at 3 damage a turn, 3 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 3 damage, -1 rend. He's got a 3-up save.
When you say -1 rend, is that a -1 to the opponent's armor save?
Yeah, it's -1 to their save. So whatever the rend is, they subtract that from their roll. So if you have a 3-up save with a -1 rend, you have to have a 4 to save.
Got it.
So when this guy is swinging, if he's in cover, he's got a 2-up save, and then he can pump out. You can buff him up to pump out like 9 damage a turn, and people don't expect that out of the Castellan. And I did some work with him one time, and he's hard to kill. He is really hard to kill. 6 wounds. For 100 points, you got a 6-wound hero that is giving a friendly unit +1 to their save. He's one of my favorites in the list. He's one of my favorite heroes in the army.
I like it. Justin, what's your standout artifact or combo?
Well, so far, I really like the Drakes. Just to be kind of fluffy, I take the Fang of the Dracothonian. So what it does is you pick one of the hero's weapons, and it becomes the Fang, and then so you re-roll any wounds of 1. So it's like preferred enemy kind of a deal, or not preferred enemy, but was it hatred? But re-rolling the 1s is pretty nice, especially when you got a dude that's swinging and usually wounds on like a 3-up, or if you can buff him and get a 2-up, you're guaranteeing your wounds. And that's pretty big when you got the dudes on the dragons. They're riding around. They got really heavy hitting, a lot of mortal wounds, a lot of rend power. So it really adds up on the building up how much damage that you're inflicting during that assault phase.
I know that people were really complaining about a certain mace. I shouldn't say complaining. They thought a certain mace was pretty powerful. Did that make it through into the new book?
Yeah,
we're talking about the Star Soul
standard.
Mace.
Yeah, we're talking about the Star Soul Mace.
That thing is standard on the what is the Retributors?
Any
So
paladin, paladin can take 2 for every 5.
Yeah,
And they just dump out D3 mortal wounds. No rolls to hit, no rolls to wound. You're just getting D3 mortal wounds.
See,
Really?
I think
These
they're
per mace.
People?
Yeah. It's one. So any paladin squad, for every 5, you get two units or 2 models in the unit can take a Star Soul Mace. It's 1d3 mortal wounds straight up, no hit roll, nothing. They just 1d3 mortal wounds, and people lose their mind about it. And every time, every game I play in which somebody's playing Tzeentch and they delete my entire army with magic before I get in, they're like, "Well, you got those Star Soul Maces." I'm like, "They can't get there, buddy." So people who say those are ridiculously strong, hey, they're good. And don't get me wrong, I love them, but I don't think they're when it comes to the the overall game, I don't think that there's anything ridiculous about them.
And this might be remedial. What's the significance of a mortal wound?
You can't save it. Well, there are some things in there, but you can't take. Joe Schmo can't make a save against mortal wounds. There's no.
Your normal armor save doesn't apply.
Yeah, your save doesn't apply at all to it. So it just goes through. Now there are some units out there that have a special ability that let them take a save against mortal wounds. Probably the most notable, I guess, would be death. They always get like saves against that sort of thing. But for the most part, when you run up and deal 6 mortal wounds, that unit's just taking the wounds, and they're going to pull models off the table. There's just nothing you can do about it. So mortal wounds, super deadly.
That does sound strong.
It's good.
Oh yeah. And that's one thing about the Stormcast, that they do that really well with the paladins, with the drakes. They're heroes, especially the little floating dude, little chubby baby. That guy is a mortal wound machine, and that's why a lot of people, they kind of tease the Sigmarines, if you will, just because I don't want to say they're easy to play, but they're very forgiving. Maybe might be the better word to say, especially because of their output and their inlaid survivability. I mean, not a lot of armies out there have the saves that these guys have and are able to stack up too. So
I'm going to agree with you there, but I'm also going to disagree a little when it comes to the survivability of Stormcast.
Ricky can't roll a 3, so
I can't roll a 3 to save my life.
Can't roll a 4.
Yeah,
that's their average save.
Yeah, their average save is 4. Everybody thinks
then
it's
you're doubly screwed.
Yeah, everybody. I swear, everybody that doesn't play Stormcast, they're like, "You got all those 3+ saves." I'm like, "Yeah, my heroes, they've got a 3+, but even your paladins, who you're paying 200 points for 5 dudes, have a 4+ save." So, granted, they have 3 wounds. I get that, but when you're paying 200 points in this game for 5 dudes, it's a lot. So, I mean, we have units in there. Like the Castellan can buff them to a 3+ save, which that makes a huge difference. But when Rend is so prolific in the game, and so here's my guys with a 4+ save, and
when
come
you
in
say
and
prolific, it's just like in other games, people are going to take the powerful things, and Rend is a powerful thing, and so if Rend exists, it's going to be on people's models.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And mortal wound models. Anybody that can dish out mortal wounds, you're gonna put them on your side. That's one thing Stormcasts have trouble with, is being able to save against mortal wounds.
Yeah, and I think Stormcasts actually struggle a little with dishing out mortal wounds. At least being able to do it consistently. When Stormcasts get in your face, they can wreck you. Some Retributors, some Decimators, when those guys go in, they're going to cause damage. Fulminators on the charge are going to cause damage. But the problem is you've got to get them there, and you got to get that charge, and it better go well for you, because if it doesn't, there are so many armies out there that have ranged mortal wounds that the Stormcast just can't defend against. Especially magic-based armies like
Disciples of Zinch.
Zinch will gut some Stormcast, and there's just not a lot we can do about it. When the Veritant first came out, the first rules for the Veritant, he could just keep unbinding all day long. And then they went in and changed it, and now he can only unbind once a turn. So, our big guy that we were getting to help counteract spells, he's only unbinding once a turn, and he doesn't really offer a whole lot else to the army. I'm a little disappointed in him personally.
Well, I think this is a good kind of look at what Sigmar is right now to maybe some people that might not be familiar with it. I'm getting familiar with it, and talks like this help, so thank you for explaining a lot of this stuff to me. Let's take a quick break, and I'm actually going to come back with the author of Warscroll Builder and talk about how that's going to be incorporated into maybe things we might see more frequently, or even supported by a company we all know and love. I'm going to get his take on it and his experience with creating the software.
Yeah, great piece of a tool for your tool shed, if you will, for any Sigmar player as well. It is probably the number one go-to app out there for building lists. And
if you want to hear more Sigmar content, please let us know. This is something I'm thinking about doing once a month, once every 6 weeks or so, a segment on the show, kind of go through the experience of playing the game, some of the way the game is evolving, and all those not squats that we're about to see. I think people are going to be really liking those.
That's going to be a game changer.
I've already got people pre-ordering them, and we don't even have prices yet. So
Awesome. You guys have a good rest of y'all's night.
Not.
Thank you.
Forced Narrative is brought to you by Dicehead.com. www.dicehead.com. Games, hobby, supplies, and comics. They have it all.
Hey everybody, welcome to A Spot on Forged Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. I'm joined today by Tony Pacheco.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be on the podcast.
Now tell me how I butchered your last name, or did I get pretty close?
You got it exactly right.
Oh,
so
I feel like I just won an award or something.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that complicated, but a lot of people mess it up, so I understand.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you. This is great.
I just recorded my first segment, dedicated to full-on Age of Sigmar, that people are going to hear before they hear this talk with you and I.
Sweet.
I'm excited. So what I'm trying to do is talk to everyone that knows anything about Sigmar, so maybe I get some info and become a better player.
Oh, okay. Well, you might be talking to the wrong guy, but we'll see what I can give you.
Well, you're the architect of scrollbuilder.com.
Yes, that's been my pet project or side project for a year and a half now. So I know how the game works, and I know how everything adds up. But no, I've been playing fantasy for a long time, so I have some knowledge. But yeah,
I needed hot list tech. That's why I'm talking to you.
Yeah, that would be great to know. Not to get too sidetracked, but to see what kind of popular lists are being made on the site. I think that would be a cool kind of metric to see what people are experimenting with.
I don't know if you go to tcg.com, I don't know if you're you know any Magic players or whatever, but they do have one of the feeds on the site is just the last 100 decks that have been made by people.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Yeah, see, that's all stuff I can do.
Oh, I'm not trying to put more work. The site, if people go to it right now, it's awesome. It's clean. It seems to be very functional. And, we heard this at Adepticon, but it's going to be featured on the Warhammer community page soon.
Yeah, that's pretty freaking awesome if you ask me. So, it's I've been working on this for a long time, and I think I've been waiting for some bad news to come my way from Games Workshop, because I'm using their stuff, and especially with the General's Handbook points and stuff. I knew I was crossing a line, but there wasn't any other resource out there, and people need to make lists. That's what we do, and so I was obviously very excited, super thankful to Andy and the whole Games Workshop as a whole for taking it on. And if you're like me, when you go to work, I load up Warhammer Community and then I load up Scroll Builder before I start doing my work, and now it'll just be in one spot, which is great. So it's going to be awesome.
That is pretty cool. Now, because part of the fantasy of this entire game is building list.
Yeah,
that influences
I would say that's
more
than yeah. It's almost more than playing the game at some point, because you're always thinking it's not the kind of game you can play all the time because it just takes a long time to play. So there's a lot of you're always thinking about things and what things can I fit in, and that's why we build lists.
So when you conceived of this, did you think it was going to be this popular? Did you think it was going to spread around? Were you just making it for your friends? How did this come about?
No, when the end of times happened, it kind of was the literal end times of Warhammer for a lot of areas. And I was part of a big club that did, we hosted like 120 player fantasy tournament every year in San Francisco, California. And when Age of Sigmar dropped, there wasn't a lot of people playing. And once the point systems kind of started to come up, like pool comp, and there was a couple SDK, which was more of a traditional formula-based point systems, I just, I wanted a way to be able to play with the group that I had, and start trying to get guys back into the game. So I also wanted to learn kind of web development on the side. So I was like, hey, I can figure this out. I also had like a 3-month-old at the time. So I was at home a lot and, stuck during like the nap cycle of a young child. So I was just learning and writing code and trying to get stuff up. And but primarily was just focused on getting, the guys around me playing. And it worked. And then it kind of started, because I was using point systems from around the world, and the USA, I started getting more people from around, hitting me up about it and asking for features and giving feedback and stuff like that. So,
because people find out about it and they've got a tournament in whatever that region is, and they'll come hit your site, to build 100 list while they're at work.
Yep, yeah, and that's just, it started just getting crazy, and people were really supportive. I had people in the early days helping me with data entry because there's a lot of stats to put in and things like that. And I had people offering wanting to buy me beers and all that stuff, which is awesome.
That's why I do this.
Yeah, but it was great, So it just kind of blew up from that. I think that when it really started to get crazy, obviously when the General's Handbook dropped, but I think when South Coast GT in the UK happened and they put out their point system, and even though I'm not from over there, I just really felt like I wanted to get that point system up there. So I did as quickly as I could. And I think a lot of people use the site for that tournament, and that it just kind of blew up even more. So it's been kind of crazy.
So unlike just a traditional spreadsheet or something that people can enter in their own points and stuff, you actually have a pretty good graphic user interface. If people aren't familiar with this, it's scrollbuilder.com. They can go and check out the site.
Yeah, it was. I designed it mostly so you could work. When I wanted to do it, there was app versus web, right? And I wanted it for the web because that's how I like to build lists. I like a bigger. I was used to Army Builder and other desktop kind of lists, so I wanted to build it for that. And then I also wanted it to work on your phone, so I did some JavaScript libraries that allowed it to work on the phone and on the browser, and it ended up working out pretty well. So just wanted to be simple and easy to make a list.
Can people print from the website?
Oh, you can. There's a couple different things. Someone asked, back in the day, hey, I want to be able to export to a PDF. So I put that in there, and some people wanted a text output, so I put that in there. Someone asked about, is there a way to send my army list to somebody? So I put in a way that will kind of give you a condensed link. And when you click and you send that to somebody and they load it up, it'll load your army for you. So you can kind of send your list to somebody or save it off for yourself. And that's kind of, right now I'm working on saving and loading lists. So that's something I'm kind of trying to figure out. It's almost done, which will be really cool. So, being able to work on a list and kind of over time, because that's kind of how I use it. I have a list that I'm kind of modifying, and it's annoying to always have to reload it up. So,
Because when you're tweaking those final 200 points or something on something, and
right, you go, you think about the list, and then you finally get to play it for a few games, and you want to come back and say, these guys didn't do so great. What can I fit in there? So, and luckily, Age of Sigmar has such a, the Grand Alliance scheme. There's a lot you can put in there, and I try to make it as easy as you can to navigate between factions, and not make it too complicated, and trying to add things to your list from the Grand Alliance. So
was incorporating the stuff from the new battle tomes difficult, because this has formations and other types of special rules that allow for things to be taken. Was that something that's there now, and was it difficult to incorporate?
So that stuff is in there, and I wouldn't say it was easy, but it wasn't. It's kind of an interesting problem to solve because I don't know what's coming. So I kind of, as a developer, I'm kind of trying to code things as generically as I can, and then something completely out of the ordinary comes in, and I got to figure out how to handle that. So it's definitely become more complex, because before we would had a very small set of command traits and artifacts, and then we started getting artifacts for wizards, and then all these, as each battle tome comes out, it gets more complicated. So that's one of the main reasons I'm so excited about working with Games Workshop, is that I'll get some insight as to what's happening ahead of time. So it'll give me so I'm not the day of a release sitting there scrambling okay, how do I figure out how to do this now?
Getting all these angry emails from people that can't build their what is it? What's the new dwarves that are coming out?
Yeah, they'll be coming out, the Caradron Overlords. Yeah, and
people
so
are real excited about that.
Yeah, as am I. I am super excited. I think it's going to be awesome. But yeah, there's always little complications. I think the rules writers are maybe enjoying making me sweat a little bit every time I get a new book. But it takes some time, but it's not too bad. I'm actually really excited that they add that stuff, because it makes that army feel more different and act differently and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for real. This is the kind of flavor you want and everything, but it doesn't always add up to ones and zeros.
Yeah,
with the way we want it to. They haven't
stumped me yet, so I will keep working. I will keep doing whatever they throw at me. But it's pretty cool. And it's as a developer, that's I'm problem solving is what I do. So I see something new and I think about how I can do it, and obsess over it for couple days and try and get it in as soon as I can. But
I mean, I found the site to be pretty comprehensive. I went because I'm new. I've played intro games to Sigmar. I've never played a real serious competitive full-on game, but I'm getting into it and I'm painting. I'm obsessed with my army, the same way I'd be obsessed with any of these plastic figures, which is a lot, by the way, in case that was the question. It's a lot. But I went in and messed with the Scroll Builder and I was pleased. Like, it was easy to actually create an army list that I felt like, even with not having a vast knowledge of the game, I felt like I could at least understand what my figures were.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear. I mean, it's so crazy to hear so many people happy and finding the site useful, and people that are new to the game, finding it as a resource, because I tried to not overcomplicate it with rules definitions and stats and, all that kind of stuff, which I think would be very useful. But the fact you can still get a general feel for how the army is going to play and what, and I'm slowly adding in the links to the war scrolls for each of the factions, so that you can, if you're in like your browser, you can click on it and it'll bring up the one from the Games Workshop site, so you can get the details you're looking for. But that's great, man. I think it's cool that you can get that kind of feeling and build an army so quickly and easily. So,
and I'm not trying to take us off track. I apologize, but that's just I'm now just absorbing all this almost with brand new eyes. Being now, I consider myself a player.
I mean, I am obsessed with Warhammer, so I will talk about Age of Sigmar as much as you want to talk about. But
you mentioned, what is your day trade? Like, what do you do when you're not coding stuff for Warhammer?
I am coding stuff for another big company. So I'm a software developer for about 10 years now. So kind of more of a manager these days. So I don't do too much coding, but I still code a little bit. But
what armies do you play?
That's a good. So when you said lots of tiny figures, that resonated with me, because I have. First, I'll go through my 40K that I haven't played in a long time, but I do have Tau, Blood Angels, and Tyranids still in a box somewhere. And then in terms of Age of Sigmar, I have my Seraphon, which with my Lizardmen have been converted over to, they're all on round bases. I'm turning in my Death over to round bases right now, which is kind of a mix of Flesh Eaters, which is ghoul stuff, and then like Death Rattle and Soul Blight with skeletons and vampires and all that. I have a full Beastman army from Fantasy that still needs to come over. I have a Wood Elf army. I think that's all of the completed armies I have. And I'm also currently painting Sylvaneth.
Wow. So you're not just some guy that said, I'm going to make a web app. And
no, I've been playing for a long time.
Yeah.
And
you were committed.
Yeah. I've played in a lot of competitive tournaments for 8th edition and 7th edition in Texas. And I went to Wapaka for a year. And California, we had a few tournaments around here. So I was playing a lot. And I really, love the game and the community and being a part of it. So, yeah, I have a lot. And that's all only my painted stuff. I have boxes and boxes and boxes. I think that's a lot of us. We've been playing forever, and I don't see us stopping anytime soon. So
no, I'm just happy that the game, like specifically Sigmar, has recognized that there are people like that, like us out here. And what I love about it, and what I think hopefully we're going to see on the 40K side, is that there's been huge attempts to not marginalize how anyone wants to play the game. If it's done anything, it's actually helped codify 3 major elements of how the game is played. You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with how people build lists or may want to build lists. And I think it's especially on the competitive side, it's kind of reignited everything, which almost led the way for everything else to get the ball rolling and people playing more.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird way that it happened too. It was kind of like it died and came back better, which is interesting. Yeah, I think everybody's getting what they want, the narrative people. And like, I don't know if you saw, but they had a bunch of the narrative organizers from tournaments go over to the Games Workshop, I think last weekend or something. And they're talking about what they're going to do for the narrative stuff this year. And all of the presence in the tournaments, we haven't seen Games Workshop in the United States at a tournament in a long time.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And just having that feeling of recognizing the areas and bringing people and ideas, out here to come like foster everything is pretty awesome. So, and I think it's working. So, around me, a lot of the players that dropped out are now coming back in to the game, which is great. So I'm hopeful that the full on competitive scene will come back again soon, because that's a lot of people like that. But also, a lot of us are still playing our narrative games and Silver Tower games with their Age of Sigmar stuff, or the other Warhammer Quest stuff. So
Silver Tower is
so
fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. We played it. I'll be short about it, but we have a cabin trip we do once a year, and we just play a bunch of board games. And we played like 6-7 rounds of Silver Tower, but just jumped right into it, and it was great. It was so fun.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you've certainly contributed to the community in a big way. And if people are listening to this and they are kind of on the fence about Sigmar, go to Scroll Builder and kick up a bunch of lists and find figures that you like playing with, and maybe that will help you get there.
I think you just got to try it. I think you get in, you play, it's so complex once you start getting into, if you've seen a tournament or been in these tournaments, it can get really pretty complex game, and but it's so easy to play and get into, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun, and you have great looking figures. So
just get in there and try it from a tabletop game, right?
right. So,
well, Tony, thanks a lot for taking time out of your day and coming and talking with me. Hopefully, I can talk to you in the future as more features get added to this, and again, I'm going to love to see it grow.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited for what's going to happen. We're still working out the details of it, but I think it's going to be an awesome year for Age of Sigmar. It's going to be an awesome year for the Scroll Builder. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
So again, that's scrollbuilder.com. It's featured right now on its own website, soon to be featured on the Warhammer community site.
Yep.
Good night.
Thank you.
I see dead people.